Hi, everybody. Welcome to, we are now halfway through season 2 of Zoey's Extraordinary Playlist. I am your host, Rachel Silvestrini. Welcome to the Rewind. These are my lovely co-hosts, Max and Lindsey. This episode it left us with a lot to talk about for the next, 7 weeks? 8 weeks?
Six or 7, yeah.
Yeah, because it doesn't come back until March 28th. And it's switching to a Sunday, which we will be too. I'll be releasing that. We'll be releasing all that fun stuff later. But I don't know how. I mean, I think that we just need to jump straight into the episode because it literally kicks off right at the same time that the last episode ended. And I don't know how they did it, but they got that gut sinking tone that they got at the end of the last episode, at the beginning of this episode, within a matter of seconds.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it's important to recognize before we talk about the episode, and I think we'd all agree how impactful we found it and how important and vital a story about racial discrimination and systemic racism in the workplace is. But the elephant in the room is, yes, we are white people. We do not have these shared experiences. We are coming to it from a place of privilege. So we can only connect to it as a viewer with the characters that we've watched. We cannot relate to it from our own experiences. It's not to say that people don't have their own experiences of issues in the workplace, but this specific one, which it dealt with in a very powerful and necessary way, is not something we understand. And I think it's important to make that clear just so everyone who's watching now or comes and watches it later doesn't think we're playing any funny games or trying to, say something we're not. We're just here to talk about the episode, how it made us feel as white people.
Which is all we can expect to be heard from. I hope that anybody who's watching this has been watching us for the last 5 weeks and understands that we come to this from a place of love and openness and caring. So
yeah,
and they did it. They conquered this episode in such a beautiful way. Lindsey, you weren't here last week, and I'm so sad that you missed out on that experience.
Oh, I know.
And now you get to jump into the deep end of an incredibly important issue.
Last week was a party, and this week is like a dissertation.
Yeah. yeah.
Which is, I think, one of the great things about the show. We talked about with Austin a couple weeks ago and with Kapil and Skylar and Andrew last week that the show is so deft at balancing musical comedy and drama and social and medical issues. And certainly this episode leaned very heavily on the social issues. In fact, I would argue it's probably the most impactful thing it's done in that regard since the fight song sequence last year.
Yeah, some silence for sure. I don't even know how to talk about this just because I feel it's not my place to. I just love this episode and I love how they attacked it. I feel like it's definitely something that should be talked about in a very open and honest and caring way on a small level. Because I think, well, not on a small level, but I think that this episode is going to spark a lot of conversations, no pun intended, it's the spark point for a lot of other smaller conversations that are going to happen that will lead to bigger and better things like how Simon was talking about it with Zoey, and he kind of did a backwards, he blew up and started talking about it during the press conference. And then instantly it was like somebody had just slammed a plate down in the middle of a restaurant that was busy and loud. And all of a sudden the air just went out of the room. Everyone was silent. The episode starts with everybody nobody's talking. Nobody's really making eye contact. Everybody's on their phones. And then he walks into the elevator with Zoey and she's just like, wow, I didn't know. And that's, I think, the most powerful thing that we can all say as, somebody who hasn't had to live through anything that that Simon has experienced. We don't know. And just admitting that. Because you can't, like, it's one of those, like, you can't move forward and you can't be better if you don't admit that there's a problem. And just because it's not a problem for you doesn't mean that it's not a problem. And then we get Mo and Max talking with Zoey about dating Michael David and her doing drugs, which was, I kind of wish that conversation had lasted a little bit longer because the look on Max's face was priceless. And then everything that Mo was saying about, like hitting up David Michael David, like, of course you want to hit up Danny Michael David for money. Like, man's kind of an idiot when it comes to money. He's just like, he's one of those guys that's like, it's so rich. Like, oh, is $10,000 too much to tip an Uber driver? Like, like he's so outside of.
And I'm glad the prediction I made last week that they were going to go pitch to him proved to be accurate. Yeah.
Especially towards the end of the episode, I was like, yeah, they're definitely going to him because he's going to have to backpedal and like make good with communities of people that he has, that it's been brought to light that haven't been able to advance in his company. So it's really nice to see that happen. And I mean, even when they were pitching to him, he was like, so how much do you need? And he's like, 1 million, 2 million. He's like 155 million. He's like 1,000. He's like, of course. Like he's got that in his wallet. Like it's chump change.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I think the highlight of both the conversation in Mo's apartment with Zoey and Max and the pitch scene with Danny Michael David and Max is Mo not putting up with anything.
Mm-hmm.
Like the fact that she called Danny Michael David out, I literally wrote a note down that was like, I love the look on white men's face when they get called out for their stuff and they don't think that it's a big deal. Because when he was like, so it's kind of my painting too. She's like, no, it's not.
Yeah.
No. even I was like, baby, no. I've seen that painting in person. That is not your painting. But yeah, so I'm really glad that Mo got to deal with that. What did you guys have thoughts on regarding the pitch?
Yeah, I mean, the more Noah Weisberg is involved in the show, the better, because he's such a funny performer, and this character is created is really great. I think like I said last week that I felt like this is where it was heading, and that means they wrote it properly. And I think it makes sense because also, as we even saw in this episode, it's an excuse to a certain extent to get Max back in SPRQ Point a little bit.
Yeah.
And I also think if we're talking like production logistics, we've talked a lot about COVID. And when we had Austin on the show, he said one of the things they had to pivot to is to create long-term sets where they would film. So having an excuse for Max to be back on the SPRQ Point set, which is obviously one of their main sets during the COVID season, there's no two ways around it. Let's say the show runs 4 or 5 years, and then in 10 years we're talking about it. This will always be the season that was filmed during COVID. Much like there are still shows you're like, this was the writer strike season. It's a way to have him flex his wings and be separate and work with Mo, but also be back in SPRQ Point. And because also, if I'm not mistaken, this is the first episode in the run of the show where we didn't see any of Zoey's family. Not her mom, not her brother, sister-in-law, any of them. And part of Max's role has been, friend of the family too. So by getting him in SPRQ Point, it also is an excuse to have him around more. But all of this, the pitch, Max, Danny Michael Davis, really is a backseat to what this episode was about.
Yeah. And then they go downstairs and, just to glaze over it because there are way more important things to talk about. Max goes down. We get the team back together with him and Tobin and Leif, and it's really fun to see them interacting together. And then I think the focus on Tobin this episode, because it wasn't just like this wasn't a Simon episode. This was an issue episode that Simon was headlining for, and Tobin took an amazing B-roll in all of this, and it was fantastic. I think he did such an incredible job. He sings Tears of the Clown a little bit later, which I literally
Tracks of My Tears, yeah.
Tracks of My Tears, yeah. And I literally messaged him and I was like, shut up with that song. That is like, it's beautiful. Like, I can't stand you right now. Like, aggressive love. But I've seen, because I grew up in the Bay Area, I have personally seen the struggles of the first gen, like, what is it? What did he refer to them as? Do you refer to them as first gens? Like the first generation of...
Yes. He said that I am first gen.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, first gen. I grew up with those kids. Like, I grew up in the Bay Area, and it was a very, like, culturally mixed environment. And so seeing that, like, I've lost a lot of touch with the kids that I went to high school with. So, like, seeing that just reminded me of high school and all of the pressures that they were under. And I just now want to reach out to everyone and just give them all hugs, because I can't even imagine, like I said, what they've been through. And I'm sure a lot of them still live around here because it's the Silicon Valley, and literally everybody that I went to high school with was like, oh, I'm going to go work for Google and Apple. I'm like, I go to JC. Bye, guys. But we did get, I was really, really kind of hoping that Zoey was going to be a little more of an ally in all of this. I was a little sad. I mean, it does kind of go along with the character that she has. I was a little sad that she didn't stand up to Danny Michael David when he told her that he was going to be the one to tell Simon that he needs to retract his statements. Because it's a lot of empty vocabulary when people are like, I'm behind you, I'm with you in this, and it's like, but you're not.
Right.
Like, you're not they're sticking their neck out for this position that they're taking, whereas you saying that you're there for them, are you there to listen? Are you there to buy them a beer? Or are you going to be standing like shoulder to shoulder with them on the front line, like trying and doing whatever you can to help out? So I mean, she got there eventually, but
I hear what you're saying, and I sort of feel like it's, I don't want to say a brave choice is the right way to say it, but I appreciated that they had her start where she started, because she is the main character, and it was a very easy way to illustrate certain levels of unconscious bias that, for better or worse, the majority of us carry around. Yeah. And the conversation that really stood out to me was when she said, when I see you, I just see Simon. And that reminds me of how often you hear people say, I don't see color, I don't see race. And that's problematic and wrong in its own right, because as Simon very clearly says, he is a black man, and that is a strong part of his identity. So to say you just see him as Simon, or I don't see race, is in its own way racist, because you are ignoring their issues and struggles. It's ignoring their identity.
Exactly.
And you're not giving them full credit for who they are as a human being. So that way of bringing that issue to light through our main character was, I thought, pretty powerful and smart. Instead of having, no one in the episode is overtly racist, right, which I think is important, because, this year there was a lot of necessary talk about systemic racism in this country, with the death of George Floyd, with the Black Lives Matter protest. This is nothing new. This has been going on in this country for hundreds of years, basically since before it was founded. But everything sort of reached a breaking point this summer with the protests. And you heard a lot of people mistakenly say there's not systemic racism, this country is not racist. That's because racism is not just calling someone a bad word. It is the unconscious things. It is the power structures in place. So when we saw the board of SPRQ Point, they were all middle-aged white men and women. That's systemic racism, because the system was never in place for black people or other people of color or indigenous people to make their way up the corporate ladder and get in positions of power to implement the necessary changes.
Yeah, I really appreciated the conversation that Zoey had with Tobin about how people still ask him, they're shocked when they find out that he works there and he's just not delivering their food. And I'm like, oh my God, like,
Yeah.
Or that he doesn't have an accent.
yeah, they doesn't have an accent. Like that just,
Tobin has increasingly become one of my favorite characters in the show. And we had Kapil on last week, and we talked about one of the great things they're doing is, or for him as an actor, is getting to play this dichotomy where, and we saw it again here, like in the ill-advised town hall that Zoey sets up. He's just like, racism is whack, yo, and throws the ball, which is a very Tobin thing to say, because he puts on a facade of being the funny, friendly douche bro, which is a defense mechanism. And so then to see that musical number, which Kapil killed, was so beautifully performed. And then his conversation later with Leaf, his conversation with Zoey, the fact that Tobin decides to speak up on Twitter, which causes a windfall of other people at the various SPRQ Point offices around the world speaking up, was a great arc. Obviously, Simon was the fire starter, but to see the other characters, Tobin in particular, take charge and speak out was really nice.
yeah, I was just really glad that he finally got he hasn't had a lot of character development externally. Most of it has been things that, like a heart song that Zoey has witnessed him singing, and it hasn't really been like something that he has verbally said or expressed. So I really did love the fact that we got him like pausing at the office door and like closing it and turning around and like actually having this like open and honest conversation with her, and just kind of understanding a little bit more that, if you want change, you need to be a part of it, because nobody can speak up and nobody can tell your story like you can. Which
Patty says in the comments, which I think is really apt, his "I don't want to stir the pot" or "I'm afraid" line. I mean, you hear this all the time.
Yeah.
You're terrified of the repercussions. Even Simon, I don't remember exactly when in the episode, has a conversation where if he decides not to retract his statements, that he'll be iced out. He'll never continue to progress in the company. This happens.
It was when he was sitting on the steps towards the end of the episode with Mo, and he was like, maybe I'll just his self-doubt broke my heart, because I want nothing more than for everybody to succeed, especially people who have not gotten the chance. It just, I don't want people to be facing this. I don't think it's something that should be dealt with. It breaks my heart. I fight however I can to be an ally or just a listening ear. But he was talking about how he'll be iced out. He will receive a promotion for a job that does nothing. And I'm like, just so that the higher ups can look good, to be like, oh, you brought this problem to us. Well, now we gave you this promotion and you don't really do anything. Because he wants to make change, and just him, even considering backpedaling, it just, I'm like, no, dude, you started this fire. You need to stoke it and, burn some of this racism down that's in that company, because it can't stand, especially in this day and age. If you're a progressive company and you're trying to make technological advancements, you need to advance in every aspect, not just the products that you put out. You need to support people that work for you.
Yeah.
What did you think, Lindsey?
This episode was a lot, but I just want to kind of go back to just kind of recap everything that we just talked about. Like when Mo and Max were pitching their idea, and of course it has to be a tech issue that something's not right, and he's like, oh well, you better get on that and let me know about that. I thought that was very ironic, but of course that's to also bring him into SPRQ Point. So I just wanted to say that. Let's see. I thought it was very brave of Tobin because to have someone from like either a boss or someone you look up to talk about these issues with you, I know it's very hard for him and other people to speak about these issues, and for him to actually speak with someone is very big. And I know that it was on his mind when he went home, and that's why he went to Twitter and voiced his story. So I thought that was very strong for him.
I did love the fact that in all of the heart songs in this episode, there were no white dancers, because you can't have them telling part of somebody else's story like this. I just found that really fantastic. I'm in love with the artwork that is going on in Maximo's. And then the song that we get from Mo singing "No More Drama" by Mary J. Blige. First of all, Alex, can you please stop killing me every week? Like, just, ooh, so good. But it was really nice to literally hear Mo just be like, I can't listen to your shit anymore, Zoey. Like, you need to, like, woman up, like, ovary up, and, like, deal with this. And I think that conversation, I think, was incredibly hard for Zoey to have and to hear, because, I mean, she does go to Mo with a lot. And especially with this issue, I think it was just kind of like, it's such a delicate thing to go and talk. Like, I was cringing during this conversation, just because it is, there's really no right way to handle this. Like, but I think they did the best that was possible, like, I think she asked for advice. She was told, you need to deal with this on your own. She dealt with it, in my opinion, the wrong way, but obviously she needed it for the character and for the story progression. And then Tracks of My Tears was amazing. Black Man in a White World was just such an incredibly moving. Like, did you guys get to see do you see the clip of that before the episode was released? Because it got.
I decided to wait.
It got released on Twitter, and I was like, I may as well watch it, because I was itching pretty hard for this episode. I need my Zoey fix. And so I watched it, and I was I watched it like 7 or 8 times, just because it was so beautifully done. The choreography, I don't know how much Mandy Moore did the choreography for this episode. I know she collaborated with someone else. I can't recall.
Luther Brown.
Thank you.
So one of the things, and I'm glad you brought it up, I appreciate about this episode, and look, there's no two ways about it. We talked with him. The show is created and show run by a white guy. And so I love, and I think it was necessary that for this episode, the writer and the director and the choreographer were Black people. So the writer was Zora Bikangaga and the director was Anya Adams. And so the fact that they made those choices, had they not, it would have been a huge mistake and automatically inauthentic. But I read an interview where John Clarence Stewart and the director were talking about how they really collaborated on this episode because they can relate to having navigated through Hollywood and creative spaces as Black men. And one of the industries I would argue that is most affected by systemic racism is the entertainment industry, whether it be who makes up writers' rooms on television shows, whether it be who gets roles, whether it be who are extras. I'm not picking on any show in particular, but the fact that you mentioned that all of the background dancers were people of color and Black people was notable just goes to show how keyed in our minds are to seeing white people on our screens. Yeah. And so the fact that it's noticeable is a message, like a visual cue in and of itself, that I find fascinating.
Yeah.
And the theater, don't even get me started on the theater. The theater has so much to work on.
But they're trying, and that's there are steps that are being taken. No matter how small, no matter how slow, we need to get a move on with that stuff. But yeah,
but the scene you're talking about between Zoey and Mo, I applaud, and I'm glad. I was a little worried that they weren't going to, that they had Mo say, so you're coming to your other black friend to talk about the problem that your other black friend is having. Theoretically, this is a conversation Zoey could have had with anyone. She could have had it with Max. She could have, well, those are her only friends, but she could have talked to her mother about it, whatever. But
she could have talked to Alice about it.
Sure. You know, that in and of itself is a problem when you go to your black friend to talk about black issues. These are things you should talk to anyone and everyone about. And I'm glad that Mo brought it up. It felt like something her character or his character would have and should have done.
Yeah.
So every little aspect of it felt authentic to me.
And justified.
They didn't miss anything that a lesser show would have. And it also never felt like a very special episode.
Right.
You know, like there was all these shows in the 90s, like where they would do like, today we're going to talk about drug addiction. And it felt like a very special episode that was not even in the same tone that the show normally deals with. But because the show has basically managed to exist in so many different tones, it just felt like a natural extension of the world. And that's impressive. That's not easy to do.
No, it's not. And not only maintain the tone, but like maintain the character's dignity while doing it. Nobody got thrown under the bus. Nobody's character or
except for maybe Danny Michael Davis, but I'm pretty sure he's already been flattened under that bus for months.
I mean, he kind of drove the bus over himself a few times in this episode. I mean, he's also a rich white man who's never had really any issues in his life.
He was able to talk his way out of house arrest. So
right?
He is the like poster child of white privilege.
Yeah. And like literally towards the end when he was sitting down and talking to everybody, you know, when Zoey takes Tobin up to go talk to them because they think that Simon is quitting. I was like, oh, please, like, this is not like, you are not the white savior. Like, please. And I love that they just shut that down instantly. Because we don't, that's not you.
Yeah. There, you know, I think you're right. I think there are many moments where Zoey was trying to be the white savior and the show was like, no, we're not going to let that happen.
Yeah.
Because there's so many movies that are beloved. Like one that comes to mind, I'm sorry if you guys like this movie, is The Blind Side.
Oh, yeah.
Which I hate because it's like, that is like white savior of the movie. That is not, whether or not you know, that story is true to a certain point, these movies lay it on thick.
Yeah. And
I'm glad that they addressed it by every time she tried to play that role, they're like, sit down, girl. This is not your fight. Thank you for your support. We appreciate it, but you are not saving us. We can save ourselves.
Yeah, that's not
exactly.
Yeah. She. I did love the. And then at the end, when they're toasting, like they're at Maximo, and they're like just. First of all, the look, every interaction between Simon and Mo is just pure love and wonderfulness. And I just, like I said, I want to see more of it and all of it. But when they're talking on the staircase in the apartment and Mo is talking to Simon and says, you are a tall, beautiful black man. And he like crumbles into himself and starts crying.
Yeah.
I would love to know how much of that was like acting and how much of it like, because there are some trigger words that we hear that no matter who they're from or how much sincerity or venom they're said with, like affect us.
Right. Yeah.
And I just wonder if because that's literally something that not from what I've heard from my friends, is not something that gets said or acknowledged enough. And in that, like, I was literally sitting on my bed, just like wiping tears and like, I'm like, damn, I got to play makeup again. But it was so powerful. And then at the end, when they're having the party to celebrate Simon and all of the good he's done. First of all, just Mo yelling after Max in the kitchen is my love language. I mean, you both know that. But then the speech that she
then what did she say? She said something like, "This is not the end. This is not the vibe."
Yeah, this is not the vibe we're having.
Yep.
Well, because he went like total like dad joke. He's like, oh, I'm working. Don't say I'm not. Oh, Max. But then just the celebration and the dance to Tightrope that they performed, like that Zoey just literally sat back and like witnessed it, just this joy. It was so beautiful.
And I love that they chose Tightrope, and it's, which is a song by Janelle Monáe, who, if you know anything about me, I'm a huge fan of. I think she is a legend in the making, and I think she is one of the great, and I don't think she would call herself, she wouldn't like being called an activist, but the way she speaks truth to power, as a Black woman, as a queer woman, and as someone who has expressed gender fluidity, makes the song choice and so apt, and it's such a great song to sort of cap up the roller coaster of emotions that this episode was. And I hate that this is where we ended it, because it's not really a cliffhanger. Like, almost feel like last week's episode would have been better note to end on, like, we'll be back in 6 weeks, and this was just sort of like a resolution. But at the same time, it's like we're not dying for 6 weeks to find out what happens next. There's not like a big, like, someone got sick or this sort of thing. It's just sort of like, okay.
Or a car crash, or are they pregnant? Yeah, I'm kind of glad,
because I don't think they probably knew how the scheduling was going to work out.
Yeah, I mean, you could tell that, like, you could tell with the sets and it was like one of those it's starting to feel like one of those challenges that shows start to put on themselves in like the best way. Like Friends did the whole, like, can we do one episode with can we do an entire episode with just one set? And they did one. And then like Buffy had the one of like, can we do an episode where no one talks? And they did Hush. And it was like one of the best episodes ever.
Episodes of just one sets are called bottle episodes, and they're some of my favorite. And normally, like, not to go too inside baseball, but when a show wants to make a really expensive episode and spend more money than they normally would, the producers or network will be like, okay, well, you have to compromise with us on another episode, do this only on an existing set that you already have built for the show. So pretty much the entire episode was either at SPRQ Point, Maximo, or Mo's apartment, which are probably 3 sets that are all on the same soundstage in Vancouver. No exterior shots, no new sets needed. Yeah, it's not a bottle episode per se, but it is certainly a not an expensive one.
It's like a cousin one. It's like a cousin bottle episode. It's like just minimalized, but it's still one of those things that we notice, but like it's not something that's hindering the storyline or the show in any form. And I really, really loved that.
Not at all.
And then I did get a little nervous towards the end. I'm not going to lie. When Zoey starts talking to Simon, I'm like, oh, please don't ruin this. Like, please don't do this. And then she just asks him how he's doing. And I'm like, oh, thank God.
I know so much of the show and the fans has been like Team Max, Team Simon, but I think for where all the characters are right now, that they're all just figuring their own shit out and aren't worried about romance or a love triangle is healthy for them.
Yeah.
All of them have stuff going on. And I agree. I was like, oh, is Zoey gonna like fawn over him or say I love you or something that she shouldn't have said or maybe didn't mean in the moment of vulnerability? And I'm glad that she didn't. I agree.
Yeah, I like the fact that the 3 of them are all just kind of like holding each other's hands in support of each other and not trying to like figure out a way to like make it work. Like it's not and pressure on anybody, and I
hope that a lot of companies, especially companies in Silicon Valley and the tech world, watch this episode, because I think in the resolution and all the things that were mentioned at the end that the Wired journalist mentioned SPRQ Point's going to put in place are things that many companies could use as a blueprint, because it felt like positive change, but not on a timeline that's unfortunately realistic. You can't, no matter how hard you try, snap your fingers and make change overnight. But if you put the systems in place to make a better and more equitable future, which it seems like the company is devoted to doing.
Yeah, I mean, they literally released that press release that they were sitting at the bar talking about, like an hour or 2 after he probably left? Like, that's huge. That's incredible. And then we finally got Tatiana singing. Oh my God. trying to look up her name. She's
Yeah, when she started singing in Tightrope, I was like, yes, girl, get it.
Yeah.
I was so happy that she was in one of the musical numbers.
her name is Alvina August, and the fact that she is so disgustingly talented and just wonderful in this role and just, gorgeous as hell.
Stunning.
Stunning.
I mean, let's be honest though, like this cast is sort of like, Russian roulette of who is more attractive. Spin the wheel, whoever it lands on, you're like, okay, that's fine.
Not angry with any of these.
Yeah.
Nope.
But just the fact that she's getting more involved makes me really excited because I would love to see more people involved in this that are super talented, and she is one of them. Also, I'm just being selfish because my niece is half Black, and I would love for her to have all of the female women of color, regardless of gender. Is that right? Yeah? All of the powerful females to look up to. My brain just stopped literally for a second. It was like, but she's amazing. And she's this high powered, maybe now Max and Mo will get that article in Wired now that Danny Michael David is involved. Is it David or Davis? Davis.
Danny Michael Davis.
David.
Also, I loved, and with all of the issues and emotion the episode dealt with, it still had good jokes. When Danny goes into Zoe's office and he's like, "You still have the chairs?"
Yes. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, why are those things still there? That looks like a design, like a junior designing project.
It was barely focused on what this week's SPRQ Point bar was, a cheese bar. Let me tell you, I could get down on a cheese bar. I'd be there all day.
That would turn me into a supervillain.
Yeah, probably not the best for you, my dear, but I will eat enough cheese for the both of us.
But then again, it is San Francisco, so you never know. There might be like a completely side section that's just
vegan cheese. You're probably right.
And I would eat myself to a fatty no friends in that isolation egg thing and not be able to. I would just blow up in there. I would love that. I would. Oh God. Seems like a really great place to work. I really did appreciate also, along with the whole fact that the director, writer, and choreographer, like you said, were people of color, the fact that all of the songs that they were singing and that they were the only heart songs being sung were by the people of actors of color. That really hit home. I really loved and appreciated that they weren't, that nothing, the story wasn't muddled by anyone else's output because it's not their story.
Yep, I agree.
I mean, yes. Aside from the whole gravity of the issue, I was really excited to see Max back. I was also really excited to see Tobin and Leif because
we talked about that. We talked about that last week. How much I love their friendship, and seeing Leif, however you want to say it, be aware and talk to Tobin about Tobin's experiences was a really nice moment. And then of course, as Leif does, he goes a little too far and Tobin has to tone him down. But
but he did. And like, that's the best part is every time he kept like over, what did he call it? I literally just
virtue signaling.
Virtues. Yeah. Every time he kept doing that, he would call him and be like, dude, stop. And he's like, yeah, I'm hearing it. He's like, hey, you want to go get a beer? Yeah, great. I know the guy who sells homemade beer out of an old stagecoach. He's like, and there it is again.
Yep,
he's back.
I'm like,
that might be the most like Bay Area thing I've ever heard. Either Bay Area or Brooklyn. Yeah, we're gonna go get craft beer out of a stagecoach. Perfect. Let's go.
Yeah, it was used during the gold rush.
Oh gosh, yeah, probably.
I mean,
I agree. Patty said in the chat, I like that they had a moment with Leif and Max acknowledging the fact that Leif basically got Max fired. Yeah.
When
that was something a little unresolved. That was nice that they remembered.
Yeah. When he gets them all to work on helping fix it, and Tobin's actually the one who's like, wait, what if we do this? And he's like, wow, I never thought I'd say this, but like, good job, Tobin.
Yeah.
And he goes, you guys all get a SPRQ Point discount, except you, Leif.
Yep. Like you have to pay full price.
I mean, maybe just, put in a code that every time that Leif orders, it's like a guaranteed like 35% tip. Just saying. That sounds nice. Pay it forward a little bit. I did appreciate the levity that got sewn in, like very, very gently throughout the episode. I think the thing that really hit me the most, like the line that really hit me the most, is when they're figuring out the Maximo app issue. Was when after Tobin solved it and slapped his back and somebody called him Slumdog.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, and then his Tracks of My Tears was right after that.
Yeah.
And he laughed it off, and he,
it wasn't
I totally get the notion of using, if you're bullied, obviously this is not the same thing, but any sort of oppression you face and someone's making a joke about you, to just double down on the joke and joke yourself instead of dealing with it head on. So I completely get that. But it made me really sad, that he called himself, well, after I take my shares in this, I'm going to be Slumdog Billionaire. And everyone's like, ha, 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 ha. Except he's devastated on the inside for only being seen as one thing and not who he is as a human being.
Yeah. And like, it was an instant change. And like, the actors are just so good, guys. Like,
oh, right. Yeah. Slumdog Toe Billionaire. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. I was like, there was a pun with his name in it. I remember. I mean, yes, but I don't think lately. I don't think that Leif is up to something at this point. I think things have calmed down for Leif overall. Yeah, guys, we're not going to do, just so you guys know, we're not going to do any heart songs, because like we said, this is not our issue to be relating to. So
it's an issue to be aware of and cognizant of and be an ally and speak up about it. But I think to choose a heart song would be disingenuous
and completely disrespectful, and we don't want to do that. So we are going to leave our heart songs for the following issue, which the next episode isn't until March
28th, Sunday, March 28th.
And the date is changing, so we are switching to Sundays, same time, because they're not adjusting the time, I don't think.
And now Sundays are going to be extra busy for me because I host another show Sunday nights. I'll figure it out.
So we're gonna try and make it work, guys. But we do have a bunch of weeks until then. We did get a teaser for what's to come. Did you guys watch the end of episode teaser?
Yeah. It seems like Maximo's going to open.
Unfortunately.
We have a big grand opening party, which is exciting. Honestly, it's happening earlier in the season than I would have expected.
Yeah.
And I keep thinking to myself, I know how long it takes to open a restaurant, but then I remember, but they're not cooking anything there. So the process is much quicker.
And they already have their liquor license because it came
Very true. Yeah.
Right, which is like
huge.
Such a boon for them and clever writing shorthand, because a liquor license can take a long time to get.
Yep.
Yeah. You can go, years open as a restaurant without getting a liquor license.
It depends. Yeah, it could theoretically. It takes months and months at least on normal time. Yeah.
And if the location you buy, they messed up, that's on you. So it makes it even worse.
Yeah. So we've got Maximo's opening, which I'm stoked about. It looks amazing. I'm really, really upset that this isn't a real place at this point, because I am less than an hour from San Francisco, and if I can just go and find the exterior building with the Maximo logo on it,
who knows? Maybe if they get a third season, which gosh, I hope they do, and we're past COVID, they'll do a Maximo pop up.
I was just about to say, I will run for them. I will do your merchandising. Let me do it, please.
We asked. I thought of something. We asked last week if they would ever want to do a live episode, and they sort of said no. But I don't know if you guys were fans of Crazy Ex-Girlfriend, and they did a live tour.
Yes.
So I would love if they did. Obviously, post-COVID, which at this point sort of sounds like saying, when hell freezes over, who knows when and if it's going to happen. But, if they did a Zoey's Extraordinary Playlist tour where the cast went just a few places and did some of the songs live for fans, that would be cool.
That's a great idea.
Yeah. If they, just did a few A markets, like 3 days in Chicago, 4 days
New York, LA, Miami. Yeah.
Chicago. Yeah. Dallas. I know people I can book that, guys. Please hire me. Let me get back to work. And do what I do best. So we've got that coming up. I'm really excited to see what they're going to bring for Zoey's family coming up, because we just had, last week we had Maggie going through a whole lot. She's, she owned up and said goodbye to
Right.
Oh my God, what's her name? It's not Jenna.
Jenna,
Jenna,
yes.
yeah.
Said goodbye to Jenna, which was
And we also found out, which I think is something we probably shouldn't have found out the more I thought about it, that Bernadette is back this season.
Yeah.
Which Andrew told us. So that's thrilling.
I know. I'm so excited, which means we're going to get, I'm hoping we get the Maggie Bernadette scene.
Musical number?
Yes.
I think so. I think that's, yeah.
I want it so badly. I mean, to be fair, if we get an Alex and Bernadette number, I don't know if I can come on the show that night. Like, I might just be in a puddle. Max and Lindsey, you guys will probably hear me screaming on the East Coast from Santa Fe.
Well, look, there's been every other iteration so far. You and I have done it without Lindsey. You and Lindsey have done it without me. So now Lindsey and I have to do this without you. And that'll be the night.
I would just be crying. Yeah, I mean,
bring some popcorn and just watch us, okay?
Yeah, I will. I'll just set up the feed and just like be out of it. Just be sitting here like that'd be great. Just sitting here crying.
Yep.
Yeah, I'm really excited to see what they have coming up for the next for the second half of the season. I can't believe we're already halfway through.
Yeah.
And with so much that's already happened, who knows what they have on the horizon? Excuse me. But yeah, what are you guys hoping that the season brings us for the rest of the second half? Lindsey?
Oof. More with the girls from the 5th floor. I mean, we got like one interacting, but come on, like you gave it to us and then we still haven't had anything. I'm like, wait, and I was like, yes. Oh, okay. And then yes. Oh, okay. Then 2 of them talked. I was like, okay. Oh, nope. That is it. So yeah, come on. I really want to see them. And then they're going to be great.
And then Max referred to her as Hot Topic, which had me giggling like nobody's business. I did appreciate the blatant hitting on him that she was doing. Just like, he's like, so what else do you do? She's like, other than alone time? I'm like,
well, she said, some of the guys around here are tech hot, but you're actually hot.
Yeah.
And then Tobin's like, excuse me, I'm a San Francisco 7.
Yes, I love that part. Oh,
yeah.
Man.
Yeah, I'm definitely down to see more of the girls from what were they, the 5th floor? Yeah, girls from the 5th floor. I'm definitely down to see way more of them. Yeah, that sounds great. Max? Next one?
I don't know. I mean, this season's interesting because the first season had such a clear arc and narrative drive, and this season hasn't. And I don't say that to impugn it. I think it's been really great. It's just hard to know what I hope to see because I don't know what they have in store for us. I'm excited to see the original song, which Austin mentioned. I'm excited to see more of Zoey's romantic exploits. I think we'll probably get back to Zoey and Max towards the end of the season. And I'm excited to see what Zoey's mom does. She's one of my favorite characters, and I think Mary Steenburgen is such a great actress, and I think they're going to keep really allowing her to explore her post-Mitch life. Yeah, and just more authentic character moments, more great musical numbers, more risks. The show has always been good at taking risks and doing good things, so we'll see.
Definitely down for that. Personally, I love Zoey as a main character, but I also am so deeply in love with all the side characters that I do want those like mini little day trips into their lives. Like I want to see like a day in the life of like Tobin and Leaf. Like I want a little bit more of their friendship. I would love to see Tatiana be more involved in the show. Like I said before, I'm super excited to see the interactions between Mary and Bernadette. I would love to see an episode because we got this season we've already gotten Max and his dad. I would love to see some of Mo's family. I would love for one of them to come visit and see their interactions because it's so telling when you see somebody like acting with their friends versus acting with their family. I think that it would be really fun to see like Zoey and Max babysit to give
That would be fun.
Andrew and Alice a night off. I think that would be adorable, both because then we would get to see these new parents off on their first date, like
Yeah.
cleaned up and trying to have like a real life together and like trying to have a romantic moment. And then you get to see like, you know, Zoey and Max like lose their mind watching a newborn or a toddler or however they want to age the kid up. Yeah, there's just so many avenues. And this just like, we had so much faith in this series before this episode, and this was going to be like a make or break it, I think, for a lot of people, and they nailed it. So I'm at this point with Zoe's that I am with Marvel. Like, I'm in your hands. I trust you. Just give me anything and everything that you want, and I know it's going to be good. Oh yes, and a happy belated birthday to Mary Steenburgen. Like,
oh yes, yeah.
And Juniper, AT&T Park, you can still call it AT&T Park. It's okay. The San Jose Shark Arena, or it's called HP Pavilion. I think it's still the Shark Tank. Screw it. The Bay Area has a very hard time like adjusting to new names for buildings, so we're fine. On that note, does anybody have anything else to say?
Yeah. I just liked how the episode there was several different situations, like for the town hall meeting where you have these people speaking up about like, oh, well, my friend, or oh, I have
the white people.
I have experience about this. And you see just how throughout the whole episode, there's certain things that people don't realize. And I've had conversations with other people like that. They're just ignorant. They don't understand, and they don't know why it's offensive, or they don't know that they're intentionally doing something. So I thought that was very important for the show to do, to show people that are watching, like, oh, you know what? I have done this in the past, or, oh, I need to work on this internally. And just, it was just very powerful to have the writers and everybody come in and be like, hey, this needs to be addressed, and this is how we're going to address it.
I concur. Maxwell, anything else?
No, I just, I think it was impeccably done. And I agree, the show, even before tonight, earned the audience's trust, and they continue to show why that's the case.
Mm-hmm.
I completely agree. Thank you guys so much for hanging out with us for the first half of season 2. Let's go around the horn and tell everybody where they can find you. Lindsey, tell the kids where they can find you and what you're doing.
You can find me at New Blondie on Facebook and Instagram. I'm going to start doing stuff, so I'm so sorry. But I want to give a shout out to my sister at Allison A. Sarch Official. Her single Sippin' on Something comes out tomorrow, and it's really good, so I'm excited. She's also in Clubhouse, so she's very active on there, so you can look at her there. But yeah, so I'm excited.
Excellent. And Maxwell, where can the kids find you?
You can find me on Twitter at CinemaXwell, Instagram CinemaXwell Inc. Most nights on the PJ Campbell Network, I host a show called Front Center Mezzanine. We have an episode this Thursday at 10 Pacific. Our guest is Amelia Barr. As I keep saying, you may not know her name yet, but you will. She is incredibly talented.
Nice.
That's awesome.
That's so exciting.
And you can find me here every Thursday as well, doing my movies, music, and mayhem. This week I've got Jeff Snyder at 7.
Oh, yes, that's going to be good.
It's going to be a lot of swearing, a lot of yelling, very, very loud. Please turn down your speakers before, and I will give that warning before I bring him on. And then we will, like I said, we will resume this show on March 28th. So keep your eyes open. We'll be sending out all sorts of tweets and stuff, and we've got a whole bunch of things lined up. Hoping to get in contact with a bunch more actors from the show. Hopefully they'll be able to come on. I'm really hoping to do like like, I hate to use this term because of what just happened, but like a town hall for the last episode and have as many people as possible on and get everybody just a raucous party going. So yeah, and then you can find me on the Schmodown. The matches are starting first week of March. Go vote for the Den. Buy all of the merchandise because that whole pot gets split between the top 2 factions, and of course the Den's going to be up there. So yeah. So until then, guys, take care of yourselves. Have those conversations. Be open. Be honest, and just care for each other. Please, please, please. Love you guys. Wear your masks, and have a good night.
Subscribe.
Yes,
share.
Like and subscribe. Thank you. Yeah, because I always forget that. All right, guys, have a good night, and we are